Us now to discuss more. Alfonso Aguilar is the former chief of the U.S. Office of Citizenship and the director of the Hispanic Engagement for American Principles Project. And Daniel DiMartino is a graduate fellow with the Manhattan Institute and a PhD candidate in economics with Columbia University. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on. Alfonso, my first question to you. So Harris's campaign is now attempting to present Harris as tough on the border, as having more security down there. But critics say that any border visit is just a political stunt, especially looking back at her track record over the past 4 years. What's your take on this?
No, you're absolutely right. It's really a bad joke. I mean, she decides to visit the border for the first time at the end of her term in office, when there are only 40 days left to the election. It's just really fake. She's trying to say she's tough on immigration. But people know what happened during these 4 years, how the Biden-Harris administration, with their open border policies, encouraged millions of people, like never before, from over 140 countries to come to our southern border. And they allowed the majority of them to come in. Secretary Mayorkas has said that up to 85% of the people that arrived at the southern border were allowed in. A lot of them claiming that they're going to be persecuted in their home country with little or no evidence, but they're allowed in. So the damage is done. And for her now to go to the southern border for the first time and say that she's tough on immigration is ridiculous. And as you also said, it's even more ridiculous considering the extreme positions she's had in the past, including decriminalizing legal entry, dismantling ICE, ending deportation. So I think the American people are smarter, and if anything, this is just going to show that she's very fake and she's trying to lie to the American people.
Someone in the campaign realized you can no longer avoid this issue, especially when you see it's polling at one of the top issues among likely voters. CNN anchor even Abby Phillip, they're admitting that Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign has finally realized she can no longer float above the immigration issue, as we were talking about. We have that moment. Watch.
The Harris campaign has just been trying to kind of float above it all, to float above the immigration arguments, float above, some of the nitty-gritty details on some of this policy. But this shows that they realize they have to do something.
Shows that they have to do something. Daniel, do you think that voters are forgetting that she is in office and has been for the past 4 years, again, a part of the Biden-Harris administration, the one handling the border crisis now?
Well, I think they don't. But beyond that, it doesn't matter if they do. The consequences is something we're all going to feel. I just recently estimated that the border crisis, that, by the way, the Congressional Budget Office says is going to number 8.7 million by the end of 2026, is going to cost us over $1 trillion, because most of these immigrants that were coming in illegally have little to no education. Most of them didn't even finish high school. And the consequence is that they're going to get Medicaid in many states, California among them. They're going to get free housing. They're going to pay very little in taxes because their income is going to be very low. And that is something that we're all going to be paying for if it's not stopped. The question is, what is her plan? I don't think she has any plan.
I think that the public wants to know what her plan is as well, because judging from the polls, Donald Trump is consistently polling better with voters as they believe he's more equipped to handle border security. I want to show you this. It's a new NBC News poll showing what registered voters consider Trump's strengths are. The border and immigration are two of those strengths. If you look here, Harris, they trust her only 33%, Donald Trump at 54%. Alfonso, do you think that this makes sense?
Well, this is why she's going to the border. They know that this is one of the top issues. She can't avoid talking about it. So she has to reinvent herself. And part of the narrative is incredibly trying to blame Republicans, trying to blame Donald Trump for what's happening, saying that he didn't support the so-called bipartisan bill that they promoted in the Senate. And that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that border bill, first of all, it didn't have Republican support. With or without Trump, it would have not passed. And in any case, it would not solve anything. If anything, it would perpetuate the current situation because it would still allow up to 5,000 people to come in the country. And at the end, with little vetting, those people arriving at the border would be allowed in. So she doesn't have a plan. She's just saying very generally that she's tough on immigration, that she's been a prosecutor and she knows how to go after criminal gangs. But the reality is that when she was in the administration, they promoted open border policies, doing away with common sense policies from the previous administration that allowed us to achieve operational control of the border, doing away with the wall system, with the remaining Mexico policy, and that encouraged millions of people like never before to come to our border, and they allowed the majority of them in. The American people know that, and as Danielle was saying, that has a real impact in our communities, economic, in terms of social cohesion, and also in terms of crime. Crime has gone up because of a massive unregulated immigration in our communities, and the American people know that. So for her to do this right now, it's just unconscionable. It's a joke, and I think most people are going to see her as what she is.
Well, there are other aspects of this as well. Here at Newsmax, I mean, we've been calling truth to power on this with the border crisis since day one, since a lot of the prior administration's policies were reversed, and then now you're almost 4 years into it, and it's seemingly going back to looking at the crisis at the border. But Daniel, many would argue that the crisis has moved past the border now, and it's in cities, in small rural towns that can't handle, again, the infrastructure of illegal migrants in these towns. It has moved now into the country, many would argue. Your thoughts there?
Yeah, I see it in New York City every day, where there are migrants all over the city who are homeless. You never saw before this crisis homeless illegal immigrants. This is a new thing that is a product of the policies of Democrats, both at the national and at the local level, who are giving them all these free things that are encouraging them to come and encouraging different types of people to come. And I think also people tend to forget that this is not going to be an easy situation to solve. All these people that have come in the last 4 years have court dates in immigration court waiting to be decided. This means that even if Trump were to come tomorrow into office, they cannot be deported until their immigration court case is closed. And that's going to take years because there are not enough immigration judges. So unless Congress helps the president by allocating money both to ICE, to Border Patrol, to more immigration court judges, this crisis is not going to end because it has already begun. It's much easier to prevent a border crisis than to solve a border crisis that's already underway.
Right. They're already here, again, major cities, smaller cities across America. Alfonso Aguilar and Daniel DiMartino, thank you very much. We appreciate that.